I'm having this horrible dichotomy in my thinking of how I should live my life, because there's two main ways in which we can live, right? There is living to be, and then there is living to become. And that's really what life is. Human beings are here in these bodies on this earth with these souls to exist, to experience a human experience, right? And I truly do think that most humans would just be happy if we lived without the function of society. Like if we were all, I think that human beings were meant to live the way animals live, where you're just running around in the woods, eating fruit. That sounds great, right? That sounds like a beautiful existence, to live like the animals do. But then humans got smart and we became hyper aware of our own consciousness, and now we have created worlds and societies and money and banks and capitalism and all the and government and all this, right? Which has obviously prolonged the human experience past, the life expectancy we would experience if we were just animals. So now we live very, very long, and we have very complex existences that allow us to feel very complex emotions, and it's just more complex now, right? So the issue that I have is that I think that we've become so hyper aware of our own existence that now, instead of just being able to exist in the state of being, like just being alive is enough, being here is enough, we as human beings have now created this altered state of reality called becoming, where you have to be striving for more and you have to be constantly improving, where you have to be working on like your physical body, making sure it's in like peak performance and health, and going to the gym and working out and all this, and you have to be eating the right foods and studying academically and be pushing and be like the best version of yourself and reach goals and work on your mindset and all this. Riddle me crazy, I don't think human beings were ever supposed to do that. I'm saying that the very basis biological things that animals do, I think that's all that human beings were supposed to do. We were just supposed to do it in these bodies versus like the body of a rhinoceros or something, right? Where you just kind of sit around all day, you go, you hunt your food, you eat your food, you do all this because it's the way that the brain functions also. Like the things that are meant for our survival release the most dopamine. Like going out, hunting your food, and eating it releases like a crazy amount of dopamine within the brain because it's what we're biologically wired to do. Being in communities with people, because obviously humans can't survive on their own the same way that like wolves survive in a pack or birds survive in flocks. Human beings are the same way. We survive in community. So when you're in community and socializing with other people and around other people, it releases dopamine, right? And then obviously like having sex, reproducing, that also releases a lot more than just dopamine. That's what she said. Anyway, I think human beings were always meant to be animals, but somewhere along the thing, we evolved. We created language and society and all this. And I think that was a mistake in human evolution because we've become so hyper aware of every little thing. And it causes us things like anxiety and depression and pain and worry and stress and fear that's not supposed to be there. Because if we were out in the world, in the wild, and we started feeling fear or we started feeling anxiety, it would be because we were actually in danger. We would hear a sound that would alert us that, hey, there's a bear nearby, you need to run. And your body would get pumped full of all this adrenaline and you would run away from the bear and everything would be fine. But now our bodies don't know the difference between having a phone call that you weren't expecting and running away from a bear. We were not biologically supposed to be the way we are as human beings. We have domesticated ourselves. And I think that was a misstep. But that's not what I'm arguing in this video. Damn, that was a long rant about not what this video was originally intended about. My problem is that I don't know which state I want to live my life in. Because there's a state of being, which is what I just talked about, where you just kind of move through life, you experience whatever life has to hand you, you work whatever job you work to make enough money to get by, and you just kind of do whatever feels nice, feels comfortable, feels enjoyable. And that is a perfectly acceptable and a perfectly reasonable way to live. And I love that. And I've had periods of time in my life where I lived like that. Like I'm living that way now, where I'm not necessarily pushing really hard for anything or have like a crazy goal I'm trying to reach. Like if I want to, like whatever I want to eat, I'll let myself eat while still being healthy. If I want to skip a run, I'll let myself skip a run. If I don't want to do something, I don't do it. Because I'm not necessarily pushing myself as hard as I can, like balls to the wall, right? But then on the flip side, there's the lifestyle of becoming, which is where you have goals and you push really hard to get there. Like you want to graduate college, or you want to reach a certain physique, or whatever it is. Honestly, whatever your goal is, you are becoming this thing. And the becoming is very unnatural. You have to go against, like 9 times out of 10, you have to go against what your brain tells you. You're not going to be motivated. You have to push yourself to do difficult things. You're not going to feel confident. You're not going to feel happy. You're not going to feel at peace when you're pushing yourself to become something new. It's going to be uncomfortable because you're literally stepping outside of your comfort zone, right? And that's another way of living, where you push yourself to be more than you think you can be. And those are the two states of being. And of course, it's okay to alternate between them, like have moments where you're resting and then moments where you're working, or even seasons where you're resting and seasons where you're working. But my problem is becoming is very unnatural. Becoming is very unnatural. I fear that it goes against our biology because animals out in the wild, mammals, other mammals, they don't have to worry about whether or not they get an A on their test. They don't have to worry about, oh my God, am I thinking positively enough? They just have to worry about rolling over in the morning, waking up and experiencing whatever life gives them. And that's it. And yeah, it's a little bit more boring being an animal, but I think it's also more exhilarating and more free because you're more present. You're more present. And you know, as I have this conversation with you, because I sat down and had this conversation because I was debating which kind of lifestyle I wanted to let myself have. Do I want to have one of peace, or do I want to have one of achievement? Because let me tell you, you can't really have achievement unless you disrupt your peace. I think David Goggins said this one time. He said, if you're trying to achieve something crazy, if you're trying to achieve something unnatural, you're going to be unbalanced. You're going to have other people telling you that you are hurting yourself. You're going to have other people tell you that you need to stop, that you're being crazy, that what you're doing is just insane. You will have people telling you that. And you will be unbalanced. Like other things in your life will take a hit. Your mental health could take a hit if you were trying to achieve something like really seriously crazy. And that's just the nature of it. If you want to pour all your energy into achievement and into effort, something else is going to have to get a little bit unbalanced. You just have to keep everything in check so that it doesn't sway, that you don't sacrifice too much of your mental and physical health to achieve something, right? But what I'm trying to say is I have the chance to choose two very different lifestyles right now. I can either go and live like a very art-focused lifestyle where I'm focusing on what I'm feeling and what feels right to me and kind of just playing things by ear, not really having a plan in place for my future, just kind of living and let life lead me where it needs to go and being very at peace and being very happy, which sounds great and sounds wonderful, but there's a piece of me that's going to feel unfulfilled because I always feel so good and so happy when I'm pushing myself as hard as I fucking can. And not everyone finds peace in achievement. I do. Like when I am tired, exhausted, have to crawl into bed because I'm so tired. I love that shit. That shit fires me up. I love being so tired from working myself to the bone every day. I love it, right? But then I also really do like being at peace. But maybe peace to me, I can find it in the becoming. Like maybe peace to me is the hard work. Maybe I am just one of those weird motherfuckers that I find happiness within hard work. Maybe I am just one of those weird motherfuckers. I don't know. But human beings were never supposed to evolve to this point. We are too hyper aware of ourselves, of our surroundings, of everything. We're too aware. We have too much consciousness, in my opinion. But we have it. So what are we going to choose to do with it? That's our choice, right? And I can either choose to try and live as close as what I think we were biologically prepared to do, which is just eat the food that I crave and only go for like light walks and strolls, do really gentle exercise that works out my body but doesn't push it too hard, have meaningful friendships with people, work on my mental health, journal, and live a life that's for me, that's really like peaceful and personal. Or, and I don't know if this is the self-destructive part of me or if this is the part of me that really craves achievement, but there's another deeper piece of me that's like, what if you just tried to do the craziest shit imaginable just because you can? Just because you can, because you're alive. Because, I mean, there's been this idea and this plan in the back of my head where I'm like, what if I just become the hardest things in the world that I can think of, which is an ultra marathon runner, a neurosurgeon, and a motivational speaker. And the reason I say motivational speaker is because I have very, very severe social anxiety, and speaking on stage and speaking in general is one of the scariest things in the world to me. So, I mean, I've always wanted to be a surgeon, but the idea of spending the next 15 years in school scares the ever-loving shit out of me. And then obviously being an ultra marathon runner, like running distances over a marathon, like even running 10 miles seems crazy to me, but running 100, that seems impossible. And there's this little deep inner voice within me, which I always tell you guys to listen to your inner voices, so why the fuck am I not doing the same? That just says, become what you think you can't, just to prove to yourself and everyone that it's possible. And I'm like, where the fuck is that voice coming from? It's like, it comes from in here, right? But then I also don't want to walk down that path because I'm afraid it's rooted in self-destruction. Like it's rooted in self-hatred. And I've done thinking and I've done prayer and I've done writing and I've done journaling on that thought of, is this self-destruction or is this me wanting to become my best self? Is my best self someone that puts herself through crazy difficult achievements just to prove that she can? Or I'm like, why don't I just go and do something simple, like be a commercial model or some shit, which doesn't require, I don't want to say that it doesn't require a lot of brain power, but it's a hell of a lot easier than going and being a neurosurgeon and an ultramarathon runner. Hell of a lot easier. But is easier better? Were we meant to be or were we meant to become? I am not sure. I'm frankly not sure. But I need to figure out the answer to this question because the rest of my life is staring me in the face and I am at a fork in the road and I cannot decide which of the lives I wish to live, one of ease or one of grit and discipline. I'm not sure myself. I am not sure myself.